What's up, guys? This is Shae.
And this is Matt.
This is the Building Small Business Podcast. Today we're here with Lilly, owner of Branch and Bark. How you doing, man?
Good. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming on. We're actually sitting inside of Lifestyle National. We have some of his very own sourced wood from his spot. So I guess I just gave away what business we're talking about. But Luke is the owner of Branch and Bark here in Lexington. It's actually right around the corner from here. It's pretty short commute, so I don't feel like I was putting you out or anything. Well, I guess could you tell us a bit more about specifically what you're, we know the grand scheme, but tell us more about it.
Okay, so we're generally using locally sourced hardwoods, and it's mostly what's coming down in your yards, disease-ridden or new construction. Trees that have been felled, turned into logs. The tree services will drop them off to us, and then we'll turn them into lumber and slabs, and cut them into dimensional live edge, whatever the market really is asking for at the time, and then sell it. We do a lot of countertops and tables. So the business is kind of split up in thirds. About a third of the business is harvesting and processing people's logs. The sustainability and the sentimental value of a log or a tree that had fell on somebody's grandpa's property or something like that. Or I've got a few stories where a man has asked a woman to marry him under a certain tree, and they want to keep it and make beds or whatever out of it. But so about a third of the business is harvesting people's logs for them. Another third is just the general sale of hardwoods, and then the other third is the custom countertops and tabletops and the woodworking facility.
So your spot is that? I've been in there before. You have a lot of wood.
Thank you. My place is the king of those kinds of jokes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love the way your wood smells. But I love it. I do. So we're not the ones out destroying the forest and taking a big chunk of the Appalachian region forestry, but that's essentially what we have. We do purchase the white oak and the walnut that we need to fill certain orders, or whether it be certain amount of cherry or red oak, whatever it is. We'll source that through loggers, because usually that type of customer is wanting more of a clear or a perfect log, and you really don't get those right here in town in the urban trees, the urban logs that come to us. You kind of have to work around hardware and just take it for what it is. So there's a lot of character, a lot of knots, a lot of crotches in the trees and stuff like that we get. But right now it's a big hit. We're making a lot of tabletops and countertops out of those things. And there's a lot of people out there that are playing and toying with the epoxy and the resin filled tables and stuff. It's kind of a big hit still. So we still got a lot of that. But essentially, we're there for anybody. Any woodworker, contractor, any customer, one board or 1,000, we've got you.
So anybody off the street could just walk in and buy some?
Anybody. Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, we're open to everyone.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go walk around there again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of dial it back for everybody and give someone some sort of a timeline, you couldn't just have all these materials and all the tools that it takes to get the job done and the expertise. I'm sure it took time to do that. How did you get started in the business?
Okay. So I started framing houses when right after high school. College didn't really work for me much. I tried a few semesters of that, and so I just kind of took my trade seriously. So I was framing houses, and then the framing led into doing some trim and learning a little more intricate, woodworking and trim work. And then as it went on, about 12 years ago, I was getting a lot of calls for woodworking projects and stuff, like tables for restaurants and stuff around here in town, and people wanting me to do end tables and stuff, because I was really trying to focus on the live edge stuff, and it's really, really big then. It's still really big now. But at any rate, I had this plan. I figured that I couldn't be the only person in Lexington looking to get this type of lumber, and for me living here central in Lexington, I had to go an hour and a half any direction to get to the first sawmill, and so that kind of got the idea started. And so what I would do is I was contracting at the time with my buddy Patrick, and we were, trying to stay busy and just build Branch and Bark Contracting at that time, and build it up. But I was getting these calls, and I couldn't avoid it because it was a lot more easier. I don't know if you've ever dealt with a woman inside of a kitchen trying to make a decision on fixtures and drawer pulls and all that stuff. Look, I love women, but that's pretty stressful, right? The color of the cabinets and stuff like that. So I was ready to get rid of that part of my work anyway. And so anyway, I'd started visiting all these sawmills and just completely fell in love with it, and just loved the whole process, and I knew that if I was going to get what I wanted, then I was going to have to do it. It was kind of hard to communicate with a sawmill that's an hour and a half away and ask them to send you pictures, because a lot of them are like old cooters that don't even know how to use their phone or whatnot,
Sure.
I'm not dogging anybody, but how technology's changed, and this is kind of an old school world when you come to being a sawyer and woodworker. So a lot of them aren't as computer illiterate or phone literate as the rest of us. So I couldn't just get them to send me pictures, so it would tie up a lot of my day. Well, so I started making a day a week where I can go visit all these places, and then a lot of the sawmills I stopped at, well, not a lot of them, but every one of them were really inviting, really friendly, and loved sharing their craft and what they did. And like Freeman Corporation in Winchester, they're one of the largest suppliers in wood veneer in all the world, and that's right here in central Kentucky. And anyway, big operation up there. I'd go to Harold White's, BPM, friend Richard Sturgill of ours owns it, and actually gave us a good jump on our inventory when we first opened up. But I'd spend my time driving these sawmills and just kind of investigating, trying to learn, the system, the setup, what, where I could fit in this. And what I found was that, pretty much my demographic was me, exactly, because there's a lot of people doing what I did. And, Branch and Bark essentially started in a 2-car garage over off St. Christopher, and so anyway, I sat down, a friend of mine, one of my best friends, older gentleman, David Hollingsworth, sat down with him, and he's kind of an old mountain man from Lynch, Kentucky. So I said sawmill, and his ears kind of perked up. He's pretty excited about it. And I'd built him a few items for his sunroom, and then a few other things. He's a big hunter, so he's got these big dead animals, mounted on these walnut like pedestals I made for him. And anyway, I was telling him kind of the struggle I was having, because he had to wait a little longer than he thought on his projects that I was building for him. And I just told him kind of where I was struggling at and my idea. So I sat down, had a business plan, a business model, and went a step further. And we came up with an exit strategy. If this doesn't work, how can we recoup what we lost, or the most of what we lost, and get out of this? Unfortunately, David, which I call Father Time because he's an older gentleman, he just turned 70 on the 4th of July. He's retiring, so I'm buying him out, which is going to leave me on my own. But he's been a major part of it since day one. My only partner, and I guess about a couple months in, we done spent probably about $500,000 on tools and equipment, and we hadn't looked back. This last year, we had an interesting year, just as everyone else did, but along with COVID and everything else, we had a fire. So we were shut down about 10 months solid without being able to do anything. But luckily, and with David's resources and the capital and stuff, we were able to survive. My only concern was keeping my team together. It's taken a long time to get the guys that I got that mesh real well together and work really good, and know each other's capabilities, or their strengths and weaknesses and stuff, and they just get along great. If you go over and listen to them, it don't sound like it, but they all love each other.
Right.
It's a great dynamic.
So your fire, did that happen at the warehouse?
Yep, that happened underneath our mezzanine, which, underneath the mezzanine, we would have supplies like slabs. We'd have our slab stock, but above the mezzanine is where we do all the woodworking. We're, as far as the investigators and the fire department and us, we think that it was an old 8-foot fluorescent light, old fixture. So the ballast, they tend to arc when they go out. So that kind of ignited the mezzanine, and that burned up pretty quick.
I would imagine so in a wood a wood warehouse.
That's a freaking nightmare.
Big kindling pile in Lexington, right? So the fire took place right next to our 2 eye-dry kilns, and one of them runs on gas, and so I was kind of scared about that. But the funniest thing is me and Patrick just went up, and I flew him and a friend to Portsmouth, and we ate a burger and flying back, and I was supposed to fly to Huntington, do some touch and goes and stuff like that, but I was tired. And I was like, well, I couldn't just hand the plane over to Patrick or whatever. So, we just decided to go home. And about, I don't know, it didn't take too long. I got on interstate, and then I got that call. I couldn't imagine getting that call while I was in the plane trying to land in Mount Sterling or whatever. So it was a blessing. A friend was driving by and saw the smoke coming from it, and this happened exactly a little over a year now, but on June 13th of last year, 2020, is when the fire happened. That was a Saturday. A friend of ours, Hans, and a great customer of ours, was driving by, and he said, he called and said, man, I think there's smoke coming from your building. And I was like, are you sure? Maybe somebody's cooking out behind the building or something. Maybe you're seeing a grill. And he was like, no, it's coming from your windows, man. So he hung up, and he said, right before he hung up, he said, I'm going to call 911 for you, call the fire department. So I'm racing down 64, and I've already got my story. I was like, if the cop pulls me over, I'm just going to plead with him, say, hey, my business is on fire. Will you lead me down the road? I don't know if that would have worked or not, but anyway, we got down here, and there was probably like 25 fire trucks, and I think they called it a 3 or 4 alarm fire. And as they were cutting the door, I was pulling up with the key as they were prying everything open and starting to cut it. I was like, no, I can let you in.
Don't break that too.
Don't break that too. But it was fine. We waited it out. Like I said, it was a really trying year. We the business end of that, what sucked is we couldn't go forward with the processing. So with no electric and with everything where we got grandfathered in this old building, everything in there had to be replaced. So every wire in there had to be redone. And so that took a while. There's a lot of 3-phase, 220. There's a whole lot of everything in there. It's got some electric to it, except for the wood miser. And anyway, we're going through that, but we can't kind of replenish our inventory, because we can't dry anything. So at this point, it felt like we wasn't going anywhere, but we were actually still on the saw, still sawing up a bunch of stuff. And, with that, time is on my side, because a lot of people think that the drying process is like an overnight deal. Well, it's not actually. You want everything to air dry for at least 6 months, even a 5-quarter, 8-quarter, whatever. At least, give it that allotted amount of time back there. So that helped me be real patient. Usually I try to force it along, and I'm a people pleaser. I want to get in there and get everybody taken care of and give them the best product I possibly can. Well, this kind of helped slow it down a little bit. There was nothing I could do for them until they got all the electric replaced and fixed and inspected, and we got everything kind of rebuilt, which was good because good friends of ours, Longwood, great business, Jordan, they do great work, great business model, the same as Old World Timber, but they were a reclaim spot, and so they were there before we were, and so there was still a lot of remnants of that company there. Well, so we kind of took this unfortunate accident and turned it into a blessing. It was a time for us to just remodel it and make it all branch and bark. Stuff that you can get from us, and people wouldn't come in and see the reclaimed floor and ask how much that was, because we don't offer it. We essentially, no matter what, try to stay in our lane. We don't focus on the reclaimed stuff unless somebody is supplying the lumber, and then they kind of understand the terms, and if any hardware is found in the lumber and we miss it or whatever else, they got to pay for the knives or the blades that ruin, stuff like that, because that stuff adds up. But for the most part, we got to rebuild the business back. It slowed us down on our as far as drying goes, but now we've been back at 100% capacity for about 4 months, and so the inventory is changing about every 2 weeks now, because everything that we have cut behind the building is ready to go in the kiln. Did
you lose a lot of your inventory in the fire?
Not much of anything.
Really?
It was pretty luckily, because a lot of the stock that was underneath of it was a few slabs, and I still got 3 maple over there that have a little kind of like a burn part to it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I've offered a deal on those, and some people like to be a part of events like that. So
Historical event.
yeah. And we donated a piece of the walnut that caught on fire to the fire department down there on 3rd Street. I think that's Station 2 or whatnot. But those guys are happy. They got a lot of good woodworkers, and the Lexington Fire Department, Police Department. We've got a lot of those guys of our customers come in, do woodworking on the side and stuff. So we make sure they're kind of taken care of. But yeah, I mean, following it up with all that, I mean, it did happen, but we're back in action now, and just loving it. Those guys are over there. I mean, we're up to our heads in work, and couldn't be happier just to be back up and running.
Nice. We kind of got through a lot of time quickly in terms of like chronologically and everything. So you said that you brought a partner on and you started your sawmill, and I guess what I'm more curious about is what got you into woodworking and doing these end tables that people started ordering from you.
Okay. I think the first order I had was I was doing a kitchen, and actually it was a woman named Karen LaFleur and Josh Weimer.
And so sorry, the kitchen that you're talking about was the contracting part of Branch and Bark that you were trying to start.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was the part I was trying to get away from at the time. But so I took that on, and that was going to be one of my last contracting jobs. But so the lady, she wanted a walnut countertop, and I hadn't really done too many of those before, but I pretty much had a smaller scale shop, but I knew I could make it work, and a lot of it took place right on site, like the sanding and truing and stuff. So we did the live edge countertop for her, and a lot of people would see that, and then she wanted some live edge shelves and a beam and stuff put in there, and then some reclaim stuff that we actually sourced from Old World Timber to do in her living room, like little faux beams and stuff. And so that was really the first big job that I got where I kind of needed and needed to use some like 8-quarter walnut, and it was hard to find around here, or like the live edge stuff. I didn't have a lot of pieces to choose from, no matter where I went. And then my partner David had asked for a couple end tables and a few things like that, and it was all the live edge stuff. And then I got in with Jay Renders at the same time. This is all kind of going on at the same time. And Gwen and Ren are awesome people, and I try my best to eat over at Jay Renders as much as possible. But so we supplied all the wood in there for the stage area, the bar, and the shelves and all that stuff. And then the calls just kept coming. People were asking about tables, and I did. There used to be on Southland Drive Luke's Coffee, and it was like Southland Perk. It's been a few different things, but Luke Gifford, friend of ours, we loved him immediately. We started doing some work for him, built his bar top and stuff in there, and that was kind of like where I decided. I was like, well, I think this could be full time with me and another guy or two, because I was several tables and projects behind, and of course. You're getting a custom item like that. It's really not cheap. So the money's there. If you can source it and have the ability to do it, then you can charge what it's worth for you. And so that's kind of how that took place. And that was about 10 years plus back. And looking back at it, man, I could thank those first couple businesses, because a lot of the builders and stuff that saw it, we were just word of mouth. And then, the social media kind of helped pick up as far as advertising and stuff went. And then, like Tops of Lexington and whatever articles. There was a Lumberline magazine and iDry. So iDry is the kiln systems we use. And they were nice enough to put a big article in there of me and David and Branch and Bark and a big Timberline and Lumberline magazine, which is kind of like auction sites and stuff for sawmill parts.
Did the magazines reach out to you to do those articles, or did you have to call them?
No, they reached out. They reached out to us. The guy that owns iDry, great fella. Man, he's just easy to work with. They know their product in and out. And we ordered one, and I ran it probably 2 cycles. And I knew instantly. I said, no matter the price, I need to have a second one. It was working so good, and we called him, and of course, so we became one of his premier customers. It was pretty awesome, man.
I'm sure those things aren't cheap. I don't want to dive into to that big of a
Well, you already
financial
said
thing.
earlier,
But
the $500,000 in tools.
Ouch.
It's well, and then the time and effort that you put on it, So a kind of a way to look at the business is, so if it's green, that means we hadn't dried it, right? And it's just been cut. So that's going to be a lot cheaper. But the more we touch it, the more it's going to cost. Kind of essentially, just like with anything else. So as far as the processing goes, to dry and to plane and or mold to turn it into flooring or V-groove, beadboard, whatever, shiplap, then of course the price goes up. But it's still pretty 100% safe to say you'll save money coming to see us. And the good thing about this foolproof business plan is that I'm only paying for what I need as far as to fill the demand with the walnut, white oak, and certain things like that. But everything else is pretty much donated to us. It saves the tree services. They don't have to spend so much time and money on discarding the tree, and then it's not destined for our landfills or the compost center or whatever else, and we get to save it and turn it into something. So a lot of this stuff it's like 500% profit. But it just go, it's according to how much we touch it. And what
still
we
have to
do
put your hands on it.
Yeah, exactly. But we really enjoy it. As best thing that happened, we've had a few interns and stuff working over there with us through UK. UK has a special interest in Branch and Bark. Kind of had a contract with them for a while. Anything fell on their property, they'd send to us. We'd saw it up and return it to them. They've been able to make a great big huge conference table that's in the Gatton building with some lumber we processed for them. And like I said, the interns, one of them went on to New York to be a furniture designer. She's doing great. Another fellow went on to buy his own mill and move to southeastern Kentucky, and seems to be doing great. Last I spoke with him, and man, that's just kind of what we do. It's all about kind of giving back. There's another part of the business. So over there's a lot of people that still burn wood to stay warm in the winter, and there's always a pile over there that we offer to the public for free. You just come pick out what you need, and that's we've been given so much, and it's been such a blessing to do what we do. Because to be honest with you, I haven't worked in 4 years since I opened Branch and Bark. This has been a desire and dream of mine since as far as I can remember. And I love working for myself. I love the responsibility. Just every phase of it, the responsibility, the task at hand, the meeting and the people that you meet and you come in contact with, and then to send them off with this nice heirloom piece that they're going to keep forever, that's made out of real wood and no particle board, that's not going to fall apart. That's a big deal to us.
So on that note, is that like physical product, like your favorite part of owning that business, like the end product that they get to see, or what would you think?
Honestly, man, I'm so basic. I just love running the saw. I've got a guy, Robert, there who's he's really, really good at it. But that's my favorite part. I
kick him off the saw.
Not much, man. He's a little more efficient than I am because he's been running it. But that's my favorite part. And it seems like no matter what the species or no matter what the piece, every piece you want to rub it and look at it. You're like, wow, that's so pretty. It's just part of the love of the tree and seeing what it's gonna look like when you open it up. That's probably my favorite part to this day.
It's great to see. Like we have a few people that we've interviewed that are like this, and not that it's a bad thing to not be so passionate about what you deal with on the day to day, but it's great to see that you truly do enjoy the actual physical product before there's even a single stain or poly or anything. You just appreciate the wood,
Yeah. We try to. So price point wise, there's a lot of people that come in that want the look of walnut, but they don't want to pay for the walnut. And walnut's kind of king of kings around here in this part. But
is that because it's harder to get a hold of nowadays?
Harder to get a hold of, and it's just the prettiest. It's just that dark heartwood and that cambium, that sap layer. It's such a different contrast, and just walnut's beautiful. It's got a lot of different ways to be sawn, but it always pretty much looks the same. Got a real elegant, classy tone to it. But So you have some that want to use like oak and make it look like walnut, and we typically, as woodworkers, you really don't like staining anything, but you know, you do what the customer asks.
Part of the gig, yeah.
It's part of the gig. As much as we don't like it, we'll stain it, whatever you need done to it.
So why do you not like staining? You not like changing the natural color of it?
That's exactly right, man. I like, you know, if you wanted to go with a lighter, different tone, just pick a different species, or you know, that's kind of how we like to see everything. But you know, I mean, it's just supply and demand. You know, whatever they need. You know, at the end of the day, it's them, it's their money. They'll get what they pay for, and that's what you try to do.
Right, and if you come across those pieces that have been stained, you can always sand them back down. Get that natural wood look on them if you want. You kind of hit on this earlier as far as advertising goes, but it seems like word of mouth was a huge one for you. Is there anything else that you can kind of hang your hat on that's important to you in the advertising world?
Well, I think other than like social media and just kind of being at places, I guess I'm kind of old-fashioned, but I really like shaking hands and meeting people face to face. And so, like anytime there's a grand opening or any kind of event like that, I like to show my face. Or like when post-time video or media would turn into Wrigley Media, same people, same company. But they had a big grand opening there, and we actually supplied them with a whole lot of their products, the tables and shelves and countertops and the accent wall and stuff in there, you know, and that was good. But the social media is a big hit, man, and like for lack of better words, the guy, the Virgin Mobile guy, you know what I'm talking
Richard
about?
Branson.
Richard Branson, right?
He's in space right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I saw that. That's crazy.
This fella had mentioned on an interview, he's like, what kind of fool wouldn't, you know, take advantage of like free advertisement? You know, and I was like, well, who am I to not take advantage of it? You know, if it's coming from a billionaire, yeah, I'm going to listen to him, right? So that's just like a one piece of advice that I've got from several different people and mentors, people that, you know, because everybody wants to see this place succeed and be a success. But that was just one thing I thought about. I was like, man, just take a little extra time. You know, and it even though it's, you know, over the phone or on the computer, man, you're still meeting these people. You know, even if it's over the internet or whatnot, man, you know, you still have a presence there. And like Facebook and Instagram, they do a great deal for us. They do a great deal for us, and we've tried to. We're yet to fill our next Amazon order, but you know, for a while we had a lot of the shelves and everything selling on Amazon, which was a big hit for us.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, I ran into a few problems there. I was giving them too many options, so now I know next level.
Dumb it down. Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
So now that you've had a couple different businesses, it sounds like, from the contracting to the woodworking, what's a piece of advice you would offer someone just willing to go into a business themselves? It doesn't have to necessarily be in the same field.
I tell you what, so the contracting was a little easier to get into. There wasn't, I didn't need so much capital. But I would, you know, brick and mortar, like a static, you know, business, I would say make sure you've got a good 3 or 4 years that you can sustain before you look to make any money. You know, I think that's the reason why a lot of the good businesses or, you know, great ideas fail. They just don't have enough money to push them along until it does hit, you know, because it takes a while getting out there. You know, the first year I was over there, pretty much anything that came in, I had to do because I needed to do whatever I could to bring in whatever money I could. But then after that first little bit, learning my dynamic and my demographic, I knew then, I was like, well, this is the things that I can do that I'm sure about, and these other things that I'm not so sure about, I'll just leave those alone. And it's taken every bit of that 3 to 4 years for us to get up and rolling and start to make some money. It's
funny, money's the pretty common answer to that, but like everybody in the different businesses, it all kind of varies what their answer is.
Well, there's also in that industry, there's a ton of overhead that you have to have to start. You have to be able to dry out the wood to actually process it. Like those machines are not cheap, and that's why wood. You know, you're talking about profit, like. Well, that's why it costs so much dang money. Is it takes time, and time is money.
That's right. That's right.
That was awesome. I think if do you want to talk about what you learned today?
I don't want to gloss over. Did you say you flew a plane? Like, are you a pilot?
Yeah. Oh, don't worry.
Was that coming?
No. I'm saying like it would have been asked about at some point or not. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of went fast. So, well, Screw it. Oh, so what?
Yeah, tell us more about
yeah, how
tell
does
us more
that go?
about the plane stuff.
You
didn't have enough to do?
I had plenty to do, but I like the challenge. You know, that's just same thing with the business. I like the challenge of the business, and to be a pilot, you've got to be real aware of your surroundings, what's going on, and just like in business, you've got to be 3 or 4 steps ahead of yourself. Like if I'm flying a plane and I'm a minute behind, I'm already losing. You know, and just like in business, you got to be thinking ahead and the future. I love flying. I fly out of Mount Sterling, Lisa and Danny Hill on Mount Sterling Airport, KLB.
I took my real estate test.
I was going to say, shout out KS. Is it KSI?
Yeah. PSI.
PSI.
Yeah. So, just a private pilot, and just fly 172s, 182s, a smaller, 172 really isn't a 4-person plane to get luggage and baggage on, but you squeeze 2 adults and 2 kids on there pretty easy. 182 is a little faster and hold a little more weight.
What's the farthest you've flown?
Charleston,
Okay.
South Carolina.
That's
back.
cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of numbers that I don't understand and know, 182s.
Well, just the size of the Cessnas. 172, 182 being a little bigger, a little more horsepower.
Gotcha.
Like that, yeah.
And then another number that I did not understand was I think you said like 825, like in reference to a slab of wood.
He was talking about thickness.
8 1/4.
Oh, 8 quarter.
8 quarter. 8 quarter.
Yeah,
Sorry.
8 quarter. So you'll have.
I was halfway right.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're right on the money. So 4 quarter, of course, would be 1 inch. 8 quarter, 2 inch, or like a 6 quarter, inch and a half, and or 12 quarter, or whatever else. But the
It's
way
like when
that's
people say their baby's like 26 months. Kind of.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I
it
like
makes
that
a lot
too.
more sense.
Instead of 1 inch and 2 inch, but yeah. So usually you take that, you cut that 5 quarter and you'll cut it like an inch and 3/8 because you got to take in a little bit for the shrinkage and all that stuff there. So it's just a common term. And then of course another one.
Math.
Another question you'll get a lot is like what's board foot, and it's square foot is just of course the coverage of an area, 10 by 10, of course, 100
Right.
square foot. But like board foot is just a volume measurement of the wood, the thickness.
The
times
depth
the
matters
width,
too,
and the
yeah,
length.
which I learned from Patrick. Yeah.
Yep. So that's I mean it's kind of once you explain it to a person, they usually got it, but it's one of those things. It's a commonly asked question every day.
Right. I think it's funny how all these different industries have their maybe not different terms, but different ways of explaining math. So, for example, have you ever ordered a door before from like an actual door company?
No.
Or like
I have not.
so I'll go over to Clay Ingalls and start talking about doors, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's a 3080," and you're like,
Yeah.
what the hell? I don't know what you're talking. Oh, 30-inch door opening, and I'm like,
Clearly, that's a 2/8 left, and then
yeah, and I'm like, no, I don't know.
Yeah, I just need
No.
a door.
Why would I know? Why would I know what that means? No, I need a 30-inch by 80-inch door. And they're like, yeah, that's a 308. I don't use that jargon every day, so I'm gonna get lost on it at some point.
That's right. So that 36-inch wide door, that 3.0 door, what's that rough opening going to be?
You don't ask
Well,
me any
Wait,
questions.
wait.
Just 2 inches bigger.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say what you said, 2 different sizes, but yeah,
Yep.
32-inch at least.
Yep.
So
like you got a 32-inch door, or if it's a 3.0 door, 36 inches, then you're gonna frame for 3.2, and that's inside of the jack studs. That's to the king stud holding the header and all that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
you haven't torn your house apart enough. Once you do that, you're like, I know exactly what those two were talking about. Cool. Are you ready to tell us what
I'll
you
go
learned
first.
today?
Yeah. So it's not really any one thing you said, which has been cool to me is to see
If
how
this is
passionate
damn it.
Did I get it? How passionate you are about everything. I mean, you've oozed it since you started talking. So it's been pretty cool. Basically, just that can just let people know to just follow your passions and you'll have fun. You said you hadn't worked in 4 years?
Yeah, easily. Well, maybe the last year was a little more like work opening back up.
Yeah.
But it's still it was still really enjoyable because, like I said before, it was still remnants of the old business that was in there. So it was good just to turn it into 100% branch and bark. Now when you come in there, the showroom makes a little more sense as far as what we need, and then everything got updated, and I mean it's a pretty awesome facility now. I can't wait for you guys to see it.
Yeah, I need to come by.
That's great. If I could do 2 things, so like what you said obviously is huge. So saying that you've never worked a day in 4 years, like do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That old cliche always is important. I had another thought in my head that was like not a huge moment or anything, but just now I'm having a hard time.
You're worse than
what
me
it
about
was.
forgetting things.
Well, no, sorry, I thought about it while y'all were chatting, and then now, of course, I've followed that conversation onto another rabbit hole in my brain. I'll probably think of it during these 5 burning questions.
Let's go to that.
So, what's one thing when starting your business you would have changed or done differently?
I would have put more focus on the drying of the lumber. Right out of the gate, I was so concerned with the saw and the sawmills and then the processing. And I could have done it a little better if I'd focused on more of the drying and got the eye dries a little sooner. I would have done that a little differently. I would have distributed the money, as far as I would have invested more into the drying system than I would have the molder and stuff like that. And it would have helped out a little bit. I mean, the molder's only a fraction of the cost of like the eye drying stuff, but I would have done a little better work on the kilns.
So even though you have a kiln, you're able to drive, if that tree out there fell, it would need to still sit for 6 months before you turn it into like a countertop or something?
Yeah, you get a...
There's a lot of sap in there. I mean,
yeah, essentially, so...
I just don't know how much the kiln took out immediately or whatever.
You're going to look at... If you have a tree fell and you get that log to us, you can have your lumber or product back in 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
And that's us kind of... drying faster than anybody else can dry within a few hundred miles of us because I'm pretty much the only one that has the eye dries around here.
That's awesome.
There you go.
I remembered what I was going to say now. So I think it was just thinking, being forward thinking, like understanding that where you're at, like obviously you can work in the present, you can enjoy what you're doing every day, but that's just part of it. The other part is, how do I prep myself for the future? How do I make sure that I'm improving my product or I'm gaining more customers or whatever that next goal is? But being forward thinking is something that you said you have to be thinking about the future as a business owner.
Well, so, the demand of lumber isn't really going to go anywhere. It's usually just going to be how it looks, So the live edge might go out of style and it might be back to more dimensional, clean, sleek lines.
I don't know.
But
it's been around for so long now,
Yeah.
that live edge.
It has. So what we've been doing now is, we're kind of, still sawing the live edge and leaving it on there and trying to dry as best we can. Live edge stuff's a little more difficult to dry than dimensional stuff because it, the sapwood is trying to help keep the moisture in and protect that tree, and you got that live edge still on it. It's all those variables in the equation. But so it's rather I'd rather have and not need than need and not have. So we cut it with the live edge on it. If they don't want the live edge, we'll just cut it right off. But we're just kind of sticking with the times. A lot of contractors are coming in, the accent walls and stuff. You just kind of look where you can kind of stick your toe in and kind of fill it out. So right now we're focusing on a lot of the accent wall kind of stuff and the ceiling board. We'll have a lot of that available and just trying to hang with the trends. We're looking at these the finer home building magazines or new House of Garden stuff, or just keeping up with shows. You kind of see where everybody's kind of headed, and you want to especially in my situation where it's months to I've got to be kind of a year ahead of everybody, kind of speculating, but having plenty of options.
So obviously, like one of the biggest stories of the last year was lumber prices as far as building homes, plywood, and stuff like that. Did that affect you all that much, or were you mainly taking just local trees around here that really matter?
No, it everything went up at least $1. Some things doubled. The walnut and white oak. Of course, the demand is way up there right now, especially with the white oak. Got a lot of the Coopers, the guys, the bourbon barrels and stuff there, and they love the white oak and ship it to China. I mean,
They have to have it. That's what
they have to have it.
That recipe does not change.
That's right, because it's not. White oak smells like bourbon. It's bourbon gets its smell from white oak, So it's pretty important to the bourbon guys. A few things have changed, risen in prices, but for the most part, the price hike has been more along the lines of structural timbers. The hemlock, the pine, the yellow pine, and all that stuff, and the sheeting goods, which we don't really have much of that to offer. We don't do any 4x8 sheets or anything like that, any plywood or OSB. But the building material, they definitely capitalize on it, and the whole problem of that was a lot of the big mills were shut down to 30%. So, I mean, they
ran through the reserves. And
yeah, they didn't need to. I mean, they're not buying as many logs as usual, but the demand is still going up. And we got a lot of builders that we communicate with at Branch and Bark, and a lot of them put their jobs on hold. Just kind of starve out the prices for a little bit until it drops down a little bit. But who knows what that timeline's like. But ours hadn't increased too much. Walnut and white oak has almost doubled, but everything else is still between the $3 and $6 board foot range, and that's kiln dried.
Okay. So, question number 2: what is a hobby of yours?
Flying airplanes.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like I could guess it, but that's
Right
a
after I asked
really
it, I
cool
was
hobby.
like,
And
How
I'm
long
sure
have you been doing that?
Couple years.
Yeah.
Couple years now. Enjoy it. Most fun you'll ever have in your life. Other than sawing
I
lumber.
fly, I don't know, 10 times a year,
It
and I
makes
hate it every
me-
time.
Well, not the flight itself, but actually driving a plane just is terrifying. And I've done some terrifying things, so I can imagine starting that crap. What is your favorite local restaurant?
Man, I like them all. I like eating at I like Sav's. I like any of the little local places. I love Winchell's. I like Ramsey's. Go all these places. Of course, during COVID, I'm going to have to admit the last 20 or 30 pounds I put on was due to COVID and DoorDash and Grubhub or whatnot.
They made it easy.
Made it real easy, right? But I like it. I could pretty much find anything good, even if it's at Mickler's back there. I mean, I just love supporting local.
Yeah.
Nice.
What is a musical artist that you listen to that no one would expect?
Probably my two favorites are maybe Anthony Hamilton and John Legend.
Yes.
I like John Legend.
Some actual R&B. That's awesome. And then let's see. So, are you a book fan, podcast fan?
A little bit of both.
Okay. Well, we'll go business book then.
All right. Rich Dad Poor Dad was one I was I was taught early in high school. Read that, but man, anything by Dave Ramsey. I mean, I like to take any information that I don't have and kind of like combine it with everything that I've learned from a bunch of different people. I look up to several different successful people that I think are successful. I mean, I definitely want what they have, and just kind of put it all together, collaborate all that information, and of course come up with my way of doing it.
Yeah. Last one. What is a guilty pleasure of yours? It could be kind of just anything random. He collects old Barbie dolls. So something along those lines.
Old Barbie dolls.
It's weird, but yeah.
I've got a shoe thing. I don't know if I'll ever outgrow it. I like the way I feel when I got a new pair of shoes on.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually like your Jordans there.
Yeah.
But,
Thank you.
That's one thing. I mean, it doesn't matter even when I was young, even if I had responsibilities, man, that $150 pair of shoes meant more than a cell phone bill or whatever else. I mean, it was a little irresponsible, but yeah, I like to spend money on tennis shoes.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Like my mom and dad always only got me and my brother ever during the school year. It was like you had to get a pair of basketball shoes because you got one pair of shoes for school. So you had to like be very careful with them in the fall so that you didn't ruin them before the basketball season. And after basketball season, it was gangbusters and they were ruined.
Yep.
And then now that I'm old enough and actually, I can buy different tennis shoes. It's kind of funny. Like I'm still buying tennis shoes like a kid, but I do love them too. So that's funny.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah, man. This is awesome. It's good meeting you.
Yeah. Well, I'm Matt.
This is Shae. I'm going to come by sometime. I want to see all the wood.
All
Yeah,
right, I appreciate it. Thanks,
I need
guys.
Patrick to make me a coffee table, so I'll probably be by there looking at something here soon. Well, thank you for coming to us, and we'll definitely try to spotlight your business as much as we can. So
You're
we appreciate
welcome.
you.
Awesome, man.
Likewise, guys. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Thanks.
Now I have to start again.